have I got a special treat for you today. For today I'm visiting Borley Church behind me, which was built in the 12th century, and what many people don't realise is that Borley Church is perhaps a lot more active on the spiritual sense than Borley Rectory could ever hope to attain during the heady days of Harry Price, the ghost hunter. And I'm going to share with you some of the stories attached to this fantastic building. One wonders why the great and intrepid ghost hunter Harry Price never actually investigated Borley Church. For sure, thorough investigations were carried out within the rectory, and also some, shall we say, questionable activities were reported, but no thorough investigation by him or any of his staff were carried out inside the church. And yet in 1942, the Reverend A.C. Henning reported that objects inside the church were being displaced and moved around. But for some reason, Harry Price decided not to go into the church to carry out a further investigation. In 1892, the Reverend Henry Ball also complained of tapping noises and objects being moved around inside the church. And of course, once the rectory was finally destroyed and buried, many presumed that the spiritual presences which inhabited the rectory had actually moved across the road and had, shall we say, taken up residence inside the church. Here I'm walking along the actual church path where so many people have heard so many footsteps of unseen bodies. And certainly it continued further in the year of 1947. A gentleman who bought a cottage attached to the churchyard reported that he could hear people indeed walking along the church path at different times, day and night, and of course there was nobody there. And in 1949, a lady by the name of Suzanne Woodruff was actually visiting the church on a cold February afternoon, when she too, walking along this very same footpath, could hear footsteps behind her. But then she was overcome by the most amazing and most nauseating smell. Could it have been vomit, or could, as she described it, have been embalming fluid? But she said the smell ranked so foully, it could have been, in fact, a rotten human corpse. Or perhaps it could have been the smell of vomit. And I will pass you over to my friend Tim, who will give you his own personal experience of that. Tim, what happened to you a bit earlier today?
Well, we were just setting up here, and I was just stood just to the left of where I am now, and just got this waft of, it was like somebody had vomited on the floor by the bushes here, but having a little look around, there's no signs of any vomit or anything on the ground. It was just a sense of sickly smell that came and passed away within half a minute.
Could that have been, as that lady described, something like embalmer's fluid? Or whether you've experienced it or not, I don't know.
Yeah, it could have been. I mean, I've not personally experienced embalming fluid, but I mean, it could have been something like that. But it made me think somebody had been sick behind the bush. And having a look, they haven't.
Well, that is strange. We've only been here less than an hour, and already some odd things are happening. And this is during the daytime. This isn't at night. And I don't think it's necessary for people to come here late at night, because all they're going to do is cause a nuisance here. A visit during the day certainly suffices for me, and no doubt a lot of other people who have picked up interesting phenomena at this church. And yet, on the subject of strange aromas, there is another tale to tell of a Mr. Clinton Tweed of Cambridge who visited the church, but his experience of the smell wasn't as though it smelt like embalming fluid. In fact, he felt it smelt like incense being burnt. Now, of course, a lot of people would argue that perhaps it was a windy day and perhaps someone was burning a bonfire, because he did describe the smell as being something like a bonfire of incense, and perhaps it was a smell from a fire that had wafted in across the fields. But how does that experience relate to the other reports of strange smells within the churchyard? So I don't think necessarily that story could be discounted, but it's something which could be added to the rich history of this very ancient site. Strangely, in June 1947, Harry Price was invited by the Reverend Henning and his wife to attend the church. It was a rededication service to the Waldegrave tomb, which had been recently restored. Whilst they were inside the church, all of a sudden and from nowhere, the sound of birds screeching, and that was accompanied by the sound of footsteps on the path leading to the church. Again they investigated, and there was no trace and no cause for the birds to be screeching. Apparently, one of the most chilling tales occurred on the 15th of September of 1947, when a Mr. John May cycled down one evening from Bury St Edmunds to Borley Church, arriving around 10:30. He went into the church and sat in the porch, when he was startled to hear the sound of the actual church gate being clicked open, and that was followed again by footsteps which came closer and closer and closer until they eventually arrived at the church, and then there was nothing. Absolutely nothing at all. And the history of this building seems to relate very self-determinedly to two main focused areas of activity, which is the clicking or the tapping of the tomb and the gate, and also the footsteps on the path leading to the church. I can attest to part of this. I came here a few years ago in the depths of winter, I think it was New Year's Day, where I carried out an impromptu investigation of wandering around the churchyard, and I was more than confident that I was being followed around. I could definitely hear footsteps behind me, and that seems to be one of the phenomena of this particular site. The real issue with Borley Church is that people will attend these locations to carry out their own investigations, and of course when these people arrive at these beautiful locations, there's normally other cars of ghost hunters. They end up making a commotion, nobody investigates the paranormal, the police are called, and it causes a lot of bad feeling between the people that live in the village and those who are attending this supposed investigation. And today, when visiting Borley, you'll find that all the street signs leading towards the village have all been removed, and you only actually find out you're in Borley literally as you drive into the village. And of course it's further encumbered by the fact that there is nowhere to park. We had grave difficulty, excuse the pun, in parking today. We had to actually park the vehicle partly out onto the road by the entrance to the car park, which was chained off. And another important feature, and I support this 100%, is that the church is covered by CCTV as a result of vandalism caused by some supposed ghost hunters. So there is an interesting history attached to a wonderful building, but unfortunately the likelihood, certainly in recent times, of it being investigated is fairly remote. And so we have to rely back to a film made in the 1970s by the BBC, who carried out their own investigation, and here is the actual clip of that investigation.
So we'll in and listen to those recordings, and a warning: do not adjust your television picture. Now, my tape recorder is down by the tomb. What family is this?
This is the tomb of the Waldegrave family, who were associated with the area for many years, and there's a possibility that one of this family is the origin of the figure who's been described as a ghost nun.
How can a Waldegrave be a nun?
Well, the figure has been described as having a veiled headdress, and it's not certain that she's a nun. Also, this tomb has been the scene of a number of inexplicable incidents. People have heard the sound of earth falling, of raps and taps, and even are some reports of some of the pillars moving. I'm not too happy about that.
Well, maybe this is what we have on this tape. And I'll play it to you now, and we'll see if Mr. Coombe Hollingworth got anything like you were talking about.
Our investigation was to be carried out in the church, and we came armed with tape recorders. We left the 2 recorders running on their own inside the building. Before locking the machines in, we searched the building. This session proved to be the most exciting one, for we firmly believe we recorded the sound of a ghost stepping forward and opening something which sounds like a door. At first, we thought we'd recorded the sound of the chancel door being opened, so we investigated this possibility. But neither of these sounds in any way seems to match the ghostly one. Nothing in the vicinity of the altar that we could find could account for the strange recording. We were so intrigued by these events that we returned to the church the following Saturday and spent the entire night there. Having searched the building once more, we locked the machines in. And already the atmosphere seemed to be changing. 2 of the team said they felt they were being watched by somebody. Now follows the most remarkable sound of all. For quite clearly, the centre microphone picked up what obviously is a human sigh. After this, we decided to break the sequence of visits and to try again during summer conditions. We started recording about 1 a.m, and the first tapes revealed the natural ambience of the building and nothing else. But as we entered the church at about 1:45, we all felt a change in atmosphere. I had a definite tingle pulsing through my body, and a feeling as though a presence were pressing against my back. And yet there was nothing horrific about it. We felt certain, however, that this run would produce results, and we were right. It's the most surprising sound we've heard to date, and we were able to locate it as originating just in front of the altar rail. If there is anybody in this church who is trying to communicate with us, we'd be grateful if you would try and do something tonight. Perhaps you could give us some indication of how we can help you. At about 3:20 in the morning, we picked up the sound of faint rapping. The team made another random visit at the end of August. A watch was kept throughout the night on the chancel door, and this proved worthwhile, for in the small hours a glow was observed around the door, as though a phosphorescent aura were emanating. On this occasion, the church produced yet another sound. This ended with a rather more frightening sigh. For the 5th visit, it was decided to keep the church manned with observers throughout the entire night. On previous occasions, we'd obtained the best results by leaving the equipment locked inside on its own, and we wondered whether the human presence might have some adverse effect on conditions. At about 4:10 in the morning, 3 of us kept watch on the choir stall adjacent to the altar. This was to be a memorable and frightening occasion. For most of the period, there were odd clicks and taps generated in the area of the font. But as it was extremely dark, we could see nothing. Then we began to see tiny points of light hovering on the curtain behind the font and on one of the pews about 1/4 of the way down the church. At first, we thought we couldn't believe our own eyes, and each one of us thought we were suffering from fatigue, until we broke the silence to speak about it.
I think I must be getting tired of it. I keep seeing things.
And Jerry, are you watching, Peter, the curtain light? Yes, that's where I'm seeing them.
Eyes wide.
Lights up that long as well. And it flashes on and off a big storm, really.
Yes, I saw one just then too.
The main one is up in the curtain.
Eh?
On the right-hand side, right in the curtain.
Very curious, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, there's one up here again then.
Yeah.
No, you're not seeing things, Peter. The three of us can see them, so it obviously exists, whatever it is. It's a strange phenomenon.
Long strip.
It's stripped this time, isn't it? It's even. Now, that was fantastic. We've no idea what that was. It certainly made all of us jump, as though some object had been thrown down. It's curious that that seems to have been tied up, but you're getting colder and colder. It's like a build-up of power.
After a while, we realised the lights were coming closer to us. But although we stuck our ground, there were no further audible disturbances in the church, and the lights eventually vanished. As to what they mean, it's anybody's guess. But whatever they are physical. The microphones prove that.
Would you say that, well, as an expert, that these are things that are happening outside that people are observing, or that they're things that they are projecting from their own minds and think they're seeing?
Well, there I really go back to this atmospheric photograph theory. See, if we don't know really, but it may be that all our thoughts, all our actions may be recorded on some sort of eternal tape. And under certain conditions, maybe climatic conditions, maybe in the presence of certain people, occasionally they reappear. We just don't know. I don't honestly think that the figures that are seen represent an afterlife. I think it's much more likely that it's some kind of echo of a previous life.
I hope you've enjoyed your wander around the church with myself and Tim, and perhaps we may have been lucky enough to have captured perhaps some odd EVP or some kind of psychic phenomena which didn't appear before our eyes as we were investigating this beautiful building. But anyway, thank you very much for joining us, and we hope you've enjoyed this brief interlude to the legend of Borley Church.